Your dog knows you are upset before you do. Not after you start crying, not after you raise your voice. Before. Before you have consciously registered the feeling yourself, something in that animal has already picked it up, cataloged it, and adjusted its behavior accordingly. It is sitting closer than usual. It keeps looking at your face. It has been tracking you since you walked through the door, and it clocked something you have not admitted yet. That is not a cute pet story. That is one of the most sophisticated interspecies communication feats documented in biology. An animal from a different species, with a different evolutionary history, reading your internal emotional state before you have consciously registered it yourself. And the reason it happens is stranger than anyone expected when researchers first started studying it seriously. There are 4 layers to this. The first one explains the basics. The second one is where it starts getting unsettling. The third one involves an experiment with foxes in Siberia that changed everything researchers thought they knew. And the fourth layer, the one I am saving for the end, is the part that says something genuinely disturbing about what your dog actually is. Start with the eyes. Humans are unusual among primates. Most primates have dark irises that fill nearly the entire visible eye, which makes it almost impossible to tell exactly where they are looking. This is useful when you are a social animal that needs to conceal attention from rivals and predators. You do not want competitors knowing where your gaze is directed. You do not want prey knowing you have spotted them. Humans broke that rule entirely. Humans have white sclera. The white part of the eye surrounding the iris is fully visible, which means anyone looking at a human face can follow gaze direction instantly and precisely. Researchers believe this evolved to support cooperation in a species that survived by coordinating with others. Making your attention readable to your group was more valuable than hiding it from competitors. Here is the thing. Dogs have learned to read it. Not some dogs, not trained dogs, all dogs, including the one currently lying on your floor pretending to be asleep while monitoring your face with one half-open eye. That is not laziness. That is surveillance. And the precision of it is genuinely unsettling when you look at the research. Every other species tested for gaze following in humans, including chimpanzees, our closest relatives, defaults to following head direction rather than eye direction. Point your head one way and your eyes another, and a chimpanzee follows the head. A dog follows the eyes. Dogs track human gaze with an accuracy that matches human infants. They look where you look. They use your attention as information about where interesting things might be. No training, no rewards. They just do it. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute ran the comparison directly. Human infants versus chimpanzees versus dogs on a battery of social cognition tasks. Dogs outperformed chimpanzees on every task that involved reading human communicative signals. Not slightly, substantially. On tasks involving physical problem solving with no social element, the chimpanzees were far ahead. But the moment a human was involved, a gesture, a gaze, a facial expression, the dog was operating at a level the chimpanzee could not touch. This is where it starts getting strange. Actually, strange is the wrong word. Strange implies something unusual. This is the opposite of unusual. This is so deeply wired into the dog that removing it would require rebuilding the animal from scratch, which, as it turns out, researchers essentially did in Siberia with foxes. And what they found is the second thing I told you I was saving. But first, wolves do not do this. A wolf raised by humans from birth, socialized daily, given every opportunity to learn, will solve physical problems a dog cannot. It will remember things longer. It will track scent with more precision. But put a human in the room and ask which animal is reading that human's face, following that human's eyes, using that human's gestures as information, and the wolf is not even trying. This specific sensitivity to human communicative signals is simply not there. Dogs have it from birth. Puppies that have never interacted with a human being can follow a pointing gesture and use it to locate food on their first attempt. They were not taught this. They arrived with it, which means it is not learning. It is biology. Something in the dog genome produces brains that are specifically calibrated to read human signals. And the question of how that happened led researchers to Siberia, where one of the most remarkable experiments in the history of animal science was already 40 years into its run. In 1959, Soviet geneticist Dmitry Belyaev began selectively breeding silver foxes, not for coat color, not for size, only for one trait: tolerance of humans. Foxes that showed less fear and aggression toward people were bred together. Their offspring were tested. The least fearful were bred again. Nothing else was selected for. Within 6 generations, something unexpected happened. The foxes started showing behavioral traits nobody had selected for. They were seeking human contact, wagging their tails, responding to their names. Within 10 generations, they were following human gaze and responding to pointing gestures. Within 20 generations, they had floppy ears, curly tails, spotted coats, juvenile facial features that persisted into adulthood. They were whimpering to get human attention. Some of them were licking faces. Belyaev had not bred a tame fox. He had accidentally bred something that looked and behaved suspiciously like a small dog. In 40 years, starting from a wild animal that would bite you for reaching into its cage. Nobody selected for any of that. It came along for the ride. What Belyaev had discovered is that domestication is a package. When you select for tameness, for reduced fear and aggression toward humans, you get a cluster of physical and behavioral traits bundled together because they are all linked at the genetic level. The floppy ears and the ability to read human gestures and the reduced stress hormones and the juvenile face shape are not separate adaptations. They are one adaptation. The same genetic changes that reduce fear also alter development in ways that produce all the other traits simultaneously. Dogs are not tamed wolves. They are not wolves that got used to people. They are a separate evolutionary outcome, a new kind of animal, produced by 15,000 years of the same selection pressure Belyaev ran in his lab. And here is the part you need to actually sit with. Your ancestors did not decide to engineer an animal capable of reading human emotional states. They just kept the ones that were less frightening to be around, the ones that did not run, the ones that did not bite. That is all the selection pressure was. The rest built itself. And here is the fourth layer, the one that changes the whole picture. Dogs are not just sensitive to human signals. They are specifically more sensitive to human signals than to dog signals. Researchers have found that dogs use human facial expressions as their primary source of social information, ahead of scent, ahead of sound, ahead of the body language of other dogs. Put a dog in a room with a human and another dog, and the dog will spend more time monitoring the human face. This is the part that makes dog owners slightly uncomfortable when they hear it for the first time. Your dog's devotion to your face, its anxiety when you leave, its apparent ability to sense your moods before you have expressed them, none of that is affection in the way you experience affection. It is the output of a brain that has been architecturally oriented toward human signals for 15,000 years. The dog is not choosing to pay attention to you. It is incapable of not paying attention to you. That is a meaningful difference. Your dog is not reading you because it loves you. It is reading you because it cannot help it. The capacity to monitor human emotional states, to follow human gaze, to interpret human gestures, is not a skill it learned. It is the thing its brain is for. You are looking at the face of an animal that has been reshaped at the genetic level across hundreds of generations to understand you specifically, not animals in general, not the environment, you. Your face, your gaze, your emotional state, your species. The dog did not adapt to the world. It adapted to you, and it figured out you were upset before you did.